You may have thought this or tried not to think this. It's a bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to say it. Muscle proves morals. No? You don't think so? Okay, let's start here. Why is it that as an employer, I'm far more likely to employ a fit person than an unfit one? True. So just my prejudice? I don't think so. Fit persons have proven to me they can work hard and smart, overcome short-term temptation, do difficult things consistently to get results. They've proven it. Unfit person shows me they have low self-esteem. Yeah, self-love stops with the physical. Sorry. Shows me they can't delay gratification. There's less ability to sustain a work ethic and will take more sick days, meaning the rest of our small team will have to pull their weight. Pun intended. It's just how it is. It's not nice to say it, perhaps, but fit people display their virtue in a way that can't easily be bought or faked. Perhaps Ozempic and these other drugs are going to change that, but for now, it's still more or less the case. Likewise, it's not polite to say in a degenerate culture that celebrates weakness, so forgive me here, but you can't trust a fatty. This may not be popular, or maybe even legal for me to say as an employer, but it's true. Even in an unhealthy culture, a person at least is somewhat responsible for their hand-to-mouth choices. You don't think? Now, of course, it's not a level playing field. I've got more respect for the middle-aged single mum who gets up early to run before our meetings than the young Aussie guy with no kids. These are real employees, so shout out to Leela and Steve. You know? General rule stands. Both of them have proven their fortitude many times over the last few years. And obviously it's complex and there's exceptions. I have a friend who simply can't exercise for medical reasons, for example. She's a real warrior. And, you know, for other people, it's socioeconomic factors that's in there. It's definitely part of it. And it's still trawlers are real fun. It's a more or less reliable, honest signal. The idea of an honest signal is something you can't fake, right? So there's other honest signals too. There's someone to say move countries and learn a language, you know, that tells me something, right? Someone has raised 5 kids, that also tells me something. I mean, you know, likewise, someone could miss that opportunity. Some parents are still assholes, but they did have a chance to grow. You know, if someone's got kids, they've had that chance. There are other examples, but actually not that many of honest signals. So if someone says they've got a degree, for example, I went to Harvard or Cambridge, I'm like, whatever. Doesn't tell me that much, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not that impressed. I'm sure not impressed with what people say on social media, right? You can all fake a nice picture on social media. So muscle is honest, what people say isn't. Muscle is hard-earned proof. And yeah, people take steroids, that increases muscle, sure, but you know, even people who take steroids if they're serious, they're still working hard. It's kind of the point, right? The steroids mean they can work harder. All right, what about let's stretch credulity and see if we can make the counterpoint. Does muscle show a lack of morality? I would agree that anyone engaging excessively in primarily appearance-based training is less virtuous. You know, we could say, they could spend that time learning language or helping homeless children, but let's be honest, the fat guy on the couch is not doing that 99 times out of 100. Perhaps there's some truth to the idea that bodybuilding or excessive dieting shows decadence. Yeah, there's something in that, but really only the extremes. You know, likewise, it's definitely unwell, body dysmorphic folks in fitness, but that isn't really the norm. You know, the norm is the runner single mum that I employ, the kettlebell swinging young man that I employ. That's more the norm. Let's get real. Here's another related example. I was in there's a little park area near where I walk today, and there's trash all over the floor in in this public area. Guess what the food was? I think it was protein shakes, salads. Of course not. It's KFC, beer cans, McDonald's wrappers. 9 times out of 10, that's the case, right? Just be honest, you know, food choices and moral choices align at least somewhat. Good news is this is a bi-directional link. You can work on your work virtues through fitness training. You know, I like weights myself for the simplicity. The idea of character building was self-evidently necessary to everyone from the Greeks to the samurai to the Victorian. You know, the sports we play used to be that. Yet somehow it's gone out of fashion. Actually, I don't think it's somehow. Consumer culture wants the only god to be short-term hedonism. The pharmaceutical industry wants us unhealthy. Politicians want us weak and easily scared. This is why the ethical playing field has not just been flattened, which would, you know, maybe make sense, but it's been removed. The idea that no one's better than anyone else, there's no such thing as virtues. This is the postmodern lie that we live in. I don't think that's accidental. People hide behind, you know, pseudo-feminine values of care and fair, decrying excellence. People that do that, I think they just want an excuse not to make an effort. They want an excuse to be bad people. Let's take this too far. A lack of fitness doesn't show me you're evil, of course. It does tell me you don't hold certain virtues and certain values. And these, I hold these to be meaningful. Yeah. You feel this, right? When you feel that like resentful, flabby, or super skinny, usually overweight or super skinny, like SJW, woke type, you can see that there's a lack of spine at the very least. Let's be brave enough to say this, huh? Philosophically, we've taken this kind of noble Christian idea of basic equality way too far. So yes, on a deep soul level, human rights level, we're all equally good. But we sure as hell aren't equal in virtue. It's painful to admit it, but people pretend that's the case. And maybe there's some necessity in pretending we have equality, particularly in a democracy. But nobody really acts that way, right? Like if you knew someone was a sex offender or a serial killer, you wouldn't give them a job in a primary school. You wouldn't leave them alone with your kids. Like we know that there are differences between people and their ethics. So on some deep level, is everyone equal? Perhaps. Perhaps. I think there's beauty in that statement. But people don't behave equally. People don't have equal virtue. That's just not the case. I don't put myself top of a pyramid here in case anyone was wondering. I'm someone who's striving, but part of that striving is acknowledging that there is something we can improve and a place to improve it. For me, fitness is one of the best places to improve it. So traditionally, this kind of Christian equality ethic was balanced in the West by a Greek idea of arete or excellence and Aristotelian virtue ethics. These can both be built. They can both be turned into habits. I think exercise is one great way to do that. Not the only way, but it's a pretty damn good way. Something about the physical base that we start with. Let's start there. Everything else rests upon that. Other forms of virtue. So yeah, if this upsets you, well, your weakness doesn't require me to hide the truth. Muscle does indeed prove at least some morals. Muscle proves morals.